Hey everyone, welcome back to Solo Party. My name is Caine, and today we are beginning our journey into Dante Inferno, starting off at the shores of the Acheron River, where we're going to be facing off against Charon, the ferryman of the dead. We're all set up, and before we get started in our journey, let's go ahead and meet our party members. First, we have the rebel Caine. Now, I wonder why I chose this one. You can see here in the top left, we have the symbol for the class, which is the outlaw, and its level. So obviously, we're all starting at level 1. This is the very first confrontation you get to in the game. This tells you that Caine is going to be able to equip ranged weapons. We've got 3 different attributes here. We have aggressiveness, prowess, and willpower, and those will be useful for certain checks that you make throughout the game. Every character has 2 unique abilities and a starting weapon. Caine's are Persecutory Delusion. Whenever you draw a sin card, you may set a trap within range 2. And of course, I'm not going to explain all of this at the jump. That would be a lot to do. We will just explain everything as we go. And then we also have Smoke Screen, which is a reaction. When damage is being inflicted on you or another champion within range 1, you may remove a trap from the board to block 3 of that damage to that champion. We also start out with the boomstick weapon. That number in the red is the damage, and the number above it is the range. So in range 3, we can attack for 3 die. And the boomstick also says whenever you are attacking before the roll, you may pay 2 vigor points to grant your attack a +2 dice bonus. And so your vigor is tracked right here on the left. Everybody's normally is going to be starting at 6, and that is going to increase and decrease as you do actions and take damage. So not only does it count as your life or your hit points, it's also in action economy. And next we have Oliver the Condottiero. This is our level 1 mercenary, can equip melee weapons. We've got 1 aggressiveness, 0 prowess, and 2 willpower. Oliver's abilities are Call to Battle. During the rebuild step, after rebuilding your hand, you or another champion at any range either receives Invigorate 2 or Empower 2 of your choice. So Invigorate 2 is, like it says, it deals with your vigor, so it's essentially a heal. So you would go 6 to 8 if you got Invigor 2. And then Empower 2, that is what is going to allow you to roll additional dice. So if Oliver had Empower 2, we have 3 base die from our weapon, and then using our 2 Empower, that would be another 2. So 5 total die for Oliver with Empower 2. He also has Draining Aid, so once per turn as a free action, you may suffer Stun 3 with Fatigue 6 aggravated to cause another champion in the area you're in to receive Restore 1. So that is a lot of different keywords to go over, and we'll go through them individually as they come up in the combat. But I will go ahead and say Restore 1, that is going to be how you're able to remove wounds off your board, which are where you're going to be able to play your cards. So wounds clog up spaces, and so Restore is important to be able to get those off of the board so you can play more cards. And Oliver's melee weapon is the Crusader Spear. It does not have a range because it is melee, so you need to be in the area that the Malefactor is in order to attack it. But the spear can use this ability once per turn as a free action. You may suffer Stun 1 with Fatigue 3 to make an attack with a +2 dice bonus for each cooldown card on your board. And so you can see right now these blue sides here, these are cooldowns. The other side of those are where you get wounded and where they will permanently clog up your board. Cooldowns at the start of each turn are slowly going to get removed. So everyone's board is filled up at the start of the confrontation with 3 cooldowns. But during your first cleanup and rebuild step, you're going to be taking one of those off so a space opens up, and then every turn, you're going to keep doing that. So as long as you can manage to avoid wounds, you're going to get a lot more space by the 3rd turn of combat. Now we have Kyra, the Wanderer, our level 1 artist. She can equip ranged weapons, and she's got an even spread of 1, 1, and 1 for the attributes. Her abilities are Restoring Pact. Once per turn, as a free action, you may draw 2 sin cards to cause you or another champion at any range to receive Store 1. So again, we've got another character with a way to heal those wounds. So I really want to be able to keep our board open so we can play as many of our powerful cards per turn as possible. She also has Versatile Redemption, so as a reaction, when you or another champion removes a sin card from the hand or board through an effect you cast, you being Kyra, until the end of this turn, you may play maneuver cards on top of other maneuver cards, and each slot can only receive 1 additional card this way. So this is going to allow Kyra, even with wounds or cooldown cards in her maneuver slots, to be able to play multiple maneuver cards in each of those slots. So it's a really good way for Kyra to be able to dish out more cards in a single turn, as long as we meet those specific criteria. She also has the hand crossbow as her weapon, so it's rolling 3 die at a range of 3, and once per turn as a free action, you may suffer stun 1 with fatigue 3 to make an attack with a +2 die bonus for each cooldown card on your board. So that's the same thing as Oliver's spear, except at a range. And finally, we have Marie the Maiden as our devotee. So level 1 again, of course, and she equips symbol weapons. And so symbols can attack at any range. So similar to magic users and Chronicles of Drunagor, if you're familiar with Creative Game Studios' other title. She's got 1 aggressiveness, 0 prowess, and 2 willpower. So we're a little low on prowess amongst our party, but pretty good at aggressiveness and willpower. Marie has the ability Inner Flame. Attacks you make receive a +2 die bonus as long as you have 2 or more inspiration tokens before the roll. And so obviously inspiration is a token you can accumulate. Tokens with values such as inspiration and empower can only have a maximum of 4, also similar to, tokens in Chronicles of Drunagor as well. She also has Align the Choir. For every 12 hits you obtain on an attack roll as a collateral effect, you either receive Invigorate 2 or Empower 2 at your choice. So Marie is really important to have that 2 inspiration on, because that is going to get you extra die rolling on your attack, which is going to make it easier for you to trigger Align the Choir to keep her either invigorated or empowered. And then Marie has the Symbol Holy Thurible weapon. So remember, this can attack at any range. Whenever you are attacking, you may pay 2 vigor points to reroll 1 die after the roll. So you don't get a result that you like, and there's 1 die you think can make the difference, and it's worth that 2 vigor, you do get a reroll with that weapon. Now let's take a look at Charon. Okay, so on Charon's status card, we can see that Charon has a 5 sturdiness value, meaning that we need to roll 5 hits in order to inflict a wound. It also has a threshold of 2, meaning if we roll at least 2 fumbles in our roll, that it is going to get to counterattack. Charon also has the abilities Ripped Bag. Whenever Charon suffers 2 or more wounds from a single attack, the attacking champion takes Charon's coin card from the reserve or from another player and then becomes the fiercest champion. Fiercest refers to this fierceness track here, and so you can see each of the symbols of our classes, and the fiercest character is going to be closest to the status card, and the least fierce is farthest away. So currently, our fiercest character is our outlaw. But this was just randomly determined during setup. As we play cards as the champions, that track is going to change around. Charon also has Blind Ambition, so champions holding Charon's coin cannot move their marker down the fierceness track. So once you have that coin, you cannot move down. It doesn't say you can't still go up. So you can increase your fierceness, but you can never go lower than what you started at when you got the coin. Now we'll just kind of take a wider look at the Malefactor tray here, and you can see we have our objective on the left side, which is simply to defeat Charon. And whenever the Malefactors turn up, it is simply going to activate its trays from left to right. So it'll start with its action, then Charon is going to draw an event from here, and then an event from here. So obviously, actions, we know what's coming, so we can kind of prepare, but as we deal wounds, we are removing actions from this. So it's not necessarily always wise to deal a wound late into your player turns, because you may open up an action that you weren't prepared for. But events are always hidden, so there's only so much we can do to prepare for that. Now we can start the confrontation with the caravan's turn, which always starts with a cleanup step. This would be where we moved any previously used maneuver cards from last turn to the discard pile to make room for this turn. And this is not an optional step. You cannot leave any maneuver cards on your board. Those have to go into the discard pile. Sins and wounds and cooldowns, however, those are always going to stay unless some instruction specifically tells you to remove those. So for the first turn, there's nothing to do for our cleanup step, so we go to the rebuild step. This is where we're going to rebuild our hand of maneuver cards for the turn. So now every champion with less than 4 maneuver cards draws 4. Now that we're done rebuilding our hands, Oliver's Call to Battle ability will go off, and he's going to give himself Invigorate 2, going up to 8 Vigor. Then finally, we have our preparation step. That is where we are going to prepare 1, which is when you get rid of a single cooldown card on your board, and then you also gain Invigorate 3. And now we can start taking our player actions. So the player turns are very fluid. You can kind of do all of the player's actions in whatever order is most advantageous to you. So I think we're going to start with a maneuver card with Kyra. That symbol on the bottom right of the picture is just the level, so it's a level 1 card, and in the top left, that is the amount you move up on the fierceness track. So currently, Kyra is in the third position as the devotee on the fierceness track. So she's going to move up one to the second position, putting the mercenary into the third position. And now Coordinate says that you move two with Climb. You may spend these movement points as if they were vigor points to perform the interact and deliver item basic action. So starting with that, movement is a basic action as is in interact and deliver items. So move with Climb means that normally to get up on this second level here, we would have to come over into this area and use the stairs. But if we have a move action with Climb, we can ignore that restriction to move up a level. So we're going to start by moving Kyra up one. And then if we don't want to use the rest of that move, the card says that we can use the remaining vigor points as interact or deliver item. So since we're in the same area as this arc, which is, a treasure chest, we are going to interact with that and draw a findings card. And Kyra has received the fifth Bulge's Tar. As a reaction, when a malefactor within range 1 is about to counterattack, you can discard this card to cancel that counterattack. Okay, that's pretty strong. And now, the second part of the card, you or another champion at any range receives Invigorate 4, Empower 4, or Inspire 1 at your choice. And now remember, we talked about Marie and how much she really wants to get Inspire, so I think we are going to give Inspire 1 to Marie. And Marie has 1 Inspire. And now that is taking up Kyra's only maneuver card slot. So anything else Kyra does this turn will have to be basic actions. And anytime we want to use a basic action, we have to spend vigor. We didn't have to with the basic actions on the card because it was part of a maneuver card. But if we ever wanted to move, interact, or deliver items outside of a maneuver card or an other ability, we would have to spend our vigor. But right now, I think we're good to save it with Kyra and move on to someone else. And now let's go ahead and start activating Caine. We're going to start with a move. And so if you didn't notice, whenever you move between these big square areas that are made up of the 4 spaces and the central space. So the central space is where Malefactor or other pieces like this siege crossbow that got randomly placed at the start are going to occupy. And your characters can never occupy those spaces. They have to do these outer spaces. But whenever you move from area to area, so whenever we did that move with Kyra, we could have chosen any of these spots to occupy, but not this one because there was already an arc, which is a piece of furniture occupying this space. So we had 3 free spaces we could have moved to with Kyra. So now we are going to spend 1 vigor with Caine in order to move back into the area behind him. And then we are going to spend another vigor to interact with this pillar furniture here. So you can see we have a level 1 pillar and a level 2 pillar. Whenever you interact with these items when you're in the same area, you get to climb to the top. And now it is as if I am on level 2, which is going to be important for certain abilities that want you to be above your target. So Caine is down to 7 vigor, but we are still in range 3 with our boomstick weapon of Charon. So we can still make an attack, which we are going to do. We are going to play our rancorous shot. And so it's got a 2 fierceness value, but we're already the fiercest. So we're just going to stay where we're at. And then we make an attack with a +2 dice bonus. You may draw a sin card to grant it an additional +6 dice bonus for a total of 8. And if you're about to set a trap, because remember with our ability, we set traps whenever we draw sin cards, we do so before the attack roll. So we actually are going to do that to go ahead and trigger that bonus to roll +8 dice. So we'll first draw our sin card. And the sin card we drew was Deceive. So as a reaction, when you or another champion at any range are about to assign a wound, that champion does not assign the wound. You can play maneuver cards on this sin card, but it still counts towards defeat and it is not removed in the cleanup step. So obviously the sin cards come with powerful abilities, but they are going to block your player boards whenever you use them. So you've got to be careful. If you've ever blocked your last slot, you are defeated and that essentially loses the scenario for you. But if you don't play the sin cards, then they also end up clogging your hand. So it's definitely a good idea to have ways to remove sin cards. And because we drew that sin card, Caine's persecutory delusions are going to activate, and we're going to be able to place this trap card in range 2, and we're going to put it in that area right in front of Charon, because he's very likely to be moving straight forward to get to one of us. So whenever a malefactor moves onto a trap, you're going to put the top card of its action deck into the discard. So it's like you're wounding it, but it's not technically a wound. Okay, so now we're going to be making our attack with 11 die, 8 from the card and 3 from our boomstick. High chance for fumbles, but a high chance for wounds as well. Okay, all in all, not too bad. Quite a lot of 2s, only a few fumbles. We've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14 hits. Very close to 15, which would be 3 wounds, but we also have 3 fumbles here, and we don't have any inspiration or any way to mitigate that. So we're going to have to accept this roll at 14 hits, meaning we will deal 2 wounds. But first, we rolled 3 fumbles. Its threshold is 2, so it counterattacks at only 2. And then with 1 extra fumble, that means +1 to whatever base damage of the counterattack is. And so in order to perform a counterattack, we take the top card of the action deck and flip it over. So we have the Searing Eyes. We're going to face the fiercest champion at any range, and Charon already is. Caine is the fiercest champion. Then inflict 4 base damage, 5 because of the extra fumble, on that champion for each sin card in their hand and on their board. Oh, and we just drew that sin card. If we hadn't gotten that, we would not have to take 5 damage, but we do take 5 points of vigor here, which is going to put us down to 2. Then finally, if this counterattack inflicts no damage, well, it did, so we do not have to do that. And then since we still inflicted 2 wounds, that counterattack card with its action on the other side becomes the first wound, and then we take the next card, and that becomes the second wound. And now, because of Charon's ripped bag ability, Caine is going to gain Charon's coin. And so Charon's coin is a finding, and it has the reaction when this finding leaves your board, either because it was discarded or given to another player, you suffer 4 damage. So obviously, if Caine suffers 4 damage right now, he is going to have to take a wound because that's going to drop him to 0 vigor. So whenever a player goes to 0 vigor, they reset to 6 vigor and then take a wound. And since we still have cooldowns on our board, we can just flip one of those cooldowns over because the other side is a wound card. But if we didn't have any cooldowns already, then we would just grab a wound from the pile and put it on our board. We are playing the normal mode and not the grim mode, so all of the wounds do the same thing and just take up a slot. But if we were playing the extra hard grim mode, then it would also do additional effects. But for now, we're going to hope this coin does not leave our possession so we don't have to take that damage and move on. Next, we'll have Oliver spend 2 vigor in order to move into the area with Charon. So you make an attack with a +1 die bonus if the targeted malefactor is holding any objects, which it isn't, so it's not going to matter. And the collateral effect is to release held objects. And again, Charon isn't holding anything, so that's not going to matter. It's just an attack with a +1 die bonus. So we're going to be rolling 4 die. Okay, pretty good. That's going to be 6, which is enough to get a single wound. And that's not going to be 2 wounds. We didn't want to play our more powerful attack because we knew that would give us Charon's coin, which would make Caine take damage. So we got exactly where we wanted to be, right there between 5 and 9. And we deal 1 wound to Charon. And that also moved us up 1 on the fierceness track. And then I do think we want to spend 2 more vigor to move back into this area. That way Charon at least has to come through this trap here, or if he attacks at range, we could potentially use that trap to block 3 on anyone it's attacking right here. Obviously, Kyra is out of range 1, but we've got 3 people protected by that trap right now if Charon does range attacks, or he's going to take an action loss if he does step onto that trap. So that puts Oliver down to 7 vigor. And now lastly, we got to decide what we want to do with Marie. Since Marie can attack from anywhere, I kind of like the idea of having her and going to kind of making her way towards some of these arcs. So we're going to start by moving 2. That takes her down to 7 vigor. And so with Marie, we're going to use Punish the Wicked. That moves us up 1 on the fierceness track. And you make an attack with a +1 die bonus. So we'll be attacking for 4 as well with Marie. I kind of messed up the fiercest track, I noticed, so it should be fixed now. And the good thing about this card is as long as we wound, we are going to get to Inspire 1, which is going to put us at our 2 inspiration threshold we like to be at with Marie. All right, so we got 6, which is within that 1 wound threshold. So we are going to wound it. We only rolled 1 fumble, so that does not hit the fumble threshold for a counterattack. So we're going to get a wound. And technically, before the wound, we have our collateral effect go off, which is going to give us that second Inspire with Marie. And now that will conclude the player's turn, and we'll go to the malefactor's turn. Okay, Charon is going to start by playing the top action card, which is a ferry race. So first we're going to advance to area A2, and advance is not the same as move. So if it had moved to A2, it would walk onto that trap. But advance is kind of like a teleport, so it only is considered to have moved into its final destination. Then Charon will face area C2, and now Charon will move 4 in a straight line, inflicting 6 damage on each champion in an area Charon steps into as he steps into them. So this is interesting for us because that means that first Charon is going to step into this spot and will inflict 6 damage onto Oliver. So we can choose to have Oliver take that 6 and go down to 1 vigor, or since this step happens before Charon steps onto the trap, we could use Caine's reaction smoke screen in order to remove that trap and prevent 3 of that damage, which I think is maybe a little bit smarter. So let's go ahead and remove this trap with smoke screen, prevent 3 of that damage, so Oliver only takes 3 vigor, going down to 4. And then Charon will continue moving. Charon then shuffles 1 Arcana card into Charon's deck if he did not hit any champions, but he did, so we do not have to do that. And then this will go onto the bottom of the action deck. Then we continue left to right on the trays and draw our first 1 event. And we've got the Acheron Flood. We inflict 3 damage to each champion on the ground level. Ooh, so that's everyone except for Kyra. Then those champions suffer, or well, Kyra and Caine. Caine's up on the pillar. So inflict 3 damage onto Oliver and Marie, and then those champions suffer push 2. Then we return this card to the bottom of the deck after resolving it. So it's a really good thing that we blocked with that trap then, because otherwise Oliver would be taking a wound right now. But as is, Oliver goes down to 1 vigor, and Marie goes down to 4. And we thought we had avoided a wound there, but since we also get push along with that, push means that you're going to move backwards and in a straight line from where the base of the triangular space you're in is. So backwards with a push for Oliver would be into this wall, which means he is going to suffer collision damage, which is 2. And being at 1 vigor, that means Oliver is going to take his first wound. So we're going to reset our vigor with Oliver back to the starting 6. And then we're going to flip over one of the remaining cooldown cards in his track. And Marie then will be moving 2 spaces this way, and fortunately does not crash into anything. And finally, we'll do our second event. And for event 2, we've got the Cursed Piece. If a champion is wielding Charon's coin, which Caine is, that champion suffers stun 3 with fatigue 3. Ouch, that is going to hurt Caine as well. I think he's about to take a wound. Now, in order to stun 3, we would need to place 3 cooldown cards into our maneuver slots. But we cannot place cooldown cards over cooldown cards that are already there. So we can place 1 cooldown underneath our 1 maneuver card, which then gets moved to the discard. And then since we have 2 remaining stun that we can't complete, that's where the fatigue 3 is going to come in. And so fatigue is damage dealt for each cooldown card you cannot place. So we would have to take 6 damage here, and being at 2 vigor, that means Caine is also going to get a wound and get reset to 6 vigor. But we are at the end of the Malefactor's turn, and we go back to the players with a cleanup step. So all of our maneuver cards that we played last turn are going to go to the discard pile. We can then rebuild our hands, and notice that Caine won't be drawing extra cards because he ended up drawing that sin into his hand. But Oliver, Kyra, and Marie are all going to get another maneuver card. Then after we've rebuilt our hands, Oliver's Call to Battle ability will go off, and we'll give Invigor 2 to Marie, putting her at 6 vigor. Now we move on to the prepare step with everyone. So everybody is going to remove a cooldown card and gain vigor 3. And now everybody is at 9 vigor except for Kyra, who is at 12, and everyone can play up to 2 maneuver cards except for Caine, who can only play 1. So I did forget a couple things that set up real quick. Just with Caine's person, we actually got the Oboli relic and this 1 aggressiveness token from the chronicle phase or the story phase. So this relic says that as a reaction, when another champion at any range suffers 1 or more wounds, we can spin this card to have them reset their vigor to 9 instead of 6 and remove a sin card from their hand. So a pretty good little boon in addition to getting that wound. And we have this aggressiveness token that we earned, and we can spend that to add 6 total hits to any attack that we make. So that's at least 1 guaranteed extra wound on Charon right there. Now, the first thing we want to do this turn is going to be with Kyra. We're going to use our aggressive penitence, which moves us 2 spaces up on the fierceness track, putting us in position 2. And then you or another champion within range 2 either make an attack or receives Empower 4 at your choice. So currently none of us are in range except for Marie, since we have the symbol and we can attack at any range, but I think I want to give Empower 4 to Oliver. You'll also notice that combo symbol on the card, and combos activate whenever you are playing a maneuver card over another maneuver card. So remember, Kyra has that ability to play maneuver cards on top of each other whenever they use an effect to remove a sin card from someone's hand or board. So Oliver gains Empower 4. The next thing we'll do with Marie is interact with this pillar in order to climb on top of it. That takes her down to 8 vigor. And then we're going to play our guidance maneuver card. So this has 0 fierceness, so we don't have to adjust the track. And we make an attack. If we are above our target, this attack receives a +2 dice bonus. And so since we're on a level 1 pillar and Charon is still on the ground floor, we are going to get that bonus. And then as a collateral effect, if we deal a wound, the next attack made by any champion against the same action deck this turn receives precision 2. So it's possible that there could be multiple enemies and thus multiple action decks. This one only has 1 action deck and 2 event decks, but there could be more than one. So it's saying on the same one as this attack, and there's only the one for this fight, so that's easy to choose. And what precision 2 is going to mean, that means that their fumble threshold is going to increase. So instead of 2 fumbles triggering a counterattack, you're going to need to roll at least 4 fumbles for Charon to make a counterattack. So that's really good for an attack coming up where we're rolling a bunch of die. But for Marie's attack, we get 3 from the Holy Thurible. We get another 2 from our Inner Flame passive and another 2 from being above with guidance. So that's a total of 7 die. And that was another great roll. That's going to be 2, 4, 6, 8. That's 10 on the die with only 1 fumble, means we don't trigger a counterattack. So that is going to be 2 wounds. But first, we're going to have our collateral effect. So the next attack made against Charon, we are going to gain precision 2 on that. Now we'll deal our 2 wounds, and then Charon's coin is going to go over to Marie from Caine. And that means Caine has to take 4 points of damage, going down to 5 vigor. Next, Oliver is going to play his maneuver card, Motivate. We're already at the top of the fierceness track, so we can just do the effect. You or another champion within range 2 may move 2 with climb and receive Invigorate 4, Empower 4, or Inspire 1. And now we're going to choose ourselves to move forward 2 to save that vigor, and then give ourselves Inspire 1. Now we haven't really seen the Inspire in action yet because we're kind of saving it up on Marie for her passive, but if we wanted to, we could have spent an Inspire on this fumble in order to turn it into a 2-hit side. So it's a way to convert misses into double hits. Then finally, we'll spend 1 vigor in order to move into the area with Charon. And now we're going to have Oliver attack with a shield bash. And again, we are already at the top of the fierceness track, so we're not going to adjust that. But now we make an attack with +4 dice bonus that considers its target's threshold 2 points lower. So now we have the threshold and precision kind of canceling each other out, and it's going to be a normal roll, but we get all of those extra die bonuses. So between our card, our empower, and our weapon, we're going to be rolling 11 die. And with 11 die, that's an incredible roll to only get 1 fumble, thus avoiding a counterattack. And that's going to be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 hits. And I think what we're actually going to do here is we're going to use our inspiration in order to convert this into a double and turn that into 15 hits. That is going to be exactly 3 wounds. So there's no counterattack, so we can just get those 3 wounds off. And then Charon's coin is going to go to Oliver, meaning Marie is going to take 4 points of vigor damage, going to 4. Then finally, we'll spend 2 more points of vigor with Oliver, going down to 6, in order to move him up onto this building with the arc. Next, we're going to have Kyra use Battle Cry. So she's going to go up 1 on the fierceness track, and then you or another champion within range 2 either receives Invigorate 4 or Empower 4 at your choice. And I think we're going to give Invigorate 4 to Oliver. That puts Oliver back up to 10 vigor. And now that makes our artist the fiercest champion, and I've got a plan for the rest of our turn. I don't think I'm going to deal any more damage because I like the top action of Charon's deck right now. Then we're going to have Caine catch a breath. So we get to set a trap within range 2, and then we may pay 4 vigor points to remove a sin card from our hand, and we are going to do that. So first we'll put a trap in range 2, and we're going to put it right here. And then we're going to spend 4 vigor going down to 1 to remove that sin card from our hand. Lastly, with Marie, we are going to use Catch the Breath. As opposed to Caine's Catch a Breath, you either remove a sin card from your hand or receive Inspire 1. And so, yeah, we don't have any sin cards or any finding cards with Marie, so we're just going to get Inspire 1. And that gives Marie 3 Inspire. So we even have 1 to play around with, even if we want to keep our bonus. And that's going to be everything for the players, so we're going to go to Charon's turn. And the first thing he's going to do is his Ore Smash. So first, we're going to move 3, approaching the fiercest champion at any range. And the fiercest champion is our artist, Kyra. So Charon is going to turn around and move 3 forward and trigger that trap. After that, if there are any champions in the area, inflict 6 damage. There are not. So since there were not, we do the otherwise action, shuffle 1 Arcana card into Charon's action deck. And so we haven't seen much of these yet, but they are basically really powerful action cards that can add just a lot of randomization into what the Malefactor already does. So you can see we got this foil, the Chariot card, and that's going to be shuffled in. And the last thing the card says to do is the least fierce champion at any range, so that's going to be Marie, discards all finding cards that they are holding and takes Charon's coin. So they're not holding any findings, so nothing to discard, but they are going to take Charon's coin from Oliver, which is going to deal him 4 vigor, putting him back down to 6. And now we can draw the first event card. And a small mistake I've been forgetting, whenever someone gets Charon's coin, they're actually supposed to become the fiercest champion. So Marie is actually the fiercest right now. And our first event is Divide the Wealth. The least fierce champion at any range discards all findings they are holding and takes Charon's coin. Okay, so now we have, let's see, it looks like Caine as our least fierce champion. He doesn't have any findings, so he's just going to take Charon's coin from Marie. And when that happens, that does take Marie down to 0, so she's going to reset her vigor to 6 and flip that cooldown card over into a wound. Then Charon activates by playing the top card of the action deck. And then this will go to the bottom. So let's see what that action is. And once again, we've got Fairy Race. So Charon is going to start by advancing to A2, then turning to C2 and moving 4 in a straight line. And since this time he did not inflict any damage, he's going to shuffle another Arcana card into the action deck. Now, since Caine has Charon's coin, he has gone to the fiercest in the track. And we can go to our second event. Invasive Gaze. Face the fiercest champion at any range, and that is going to be Caine. Then we'll inflict 8 damage on that champion unless they succeed in an attribute test 7 for willpower. And so Caine has no die for willpower, so this would be exceptionally difficult for us to be able to complete. And I straight up, I think it's just impossible for where we're at. So we are just going to have to take that 8, and then this will go to the bottom of the deck. And so with taking that wound, we will go ahead and spend our Oboli here in order to raise our vigor to 9 instead of 6. We don't have any more Sin cards in our hand, but going back up to 9 is going to help us close the gap since Charon keeps running away from where we're at on this pillar. And Caine is not looking great with 2 of our spots taken up by wounds. But that'll be all for Charon, and it is back to our turn. Alright, so we finished our cleanup, rebuild, and prepare steps. With Oliver's ability, we gave Caine 2 Empower. I didn't realize we left Kyra with 12 vigor on that last turn, so maybe there's some extra stuff we could have done there, but that is what it is. She's at least at 12 vigor, which is really great. And also is the only one with 3 slots on the maneuver board available right now. Let's go ahead and start out with Kyra. We'll start by using our Claim maneuver card in order to gain Inspire 1. And that moves us to the second position on the Fierceness track. Next, we'll spend 1 vigor going to 11 to move forward. Then we're finally going to make our first attack with Kyra using our Corrupt Tempest. So we get to attack with a +2 dice bonus, meaning 5 total die. We do have Inspire 1 if we need to use that for a fumble. And the collateral effect says we may draw a Sin card to discard the top card from the targeted action deck. And it's not the same as inflicting a wound, but it does still get rid of the HP. So with 2 Fierceness, that will put us up at the top of the Fierceness track. Okay, so that's 2, 4, 6, 7 hits and a single fumble, so no counterattack, and we'll deal 1 wound. We will do that collateral effect, so we're going to draw a Sin card to remove an extra card off of the action deck. Next, we're going to use Kyra's Call to Action card, and that's just going to allow us to remove the Sin card that we just drew into our hand. And now all 3 of Kyra's maneuver slots are filled up, but because we just removed a Sin card from our hand using an effect that came from us, our Versatile Redemption activates, and we can now play maneuver cards on top of other maneuver cards. So that means while we're already at the top of the Fierceness track, let's just go ahead and play our last maneuver card, which is an attack. We get a +1 die bonus, so this is going to be an attack for 4. It's not holding anything, so the rest of those effects are not going to matter. And okay, We rolled 2 fumbles and 3 hits. So thankfully, we do still have that inspiration. So we are going to spend that in order to flip 1 fumble into a double, which makes 5 hits, 1 fumble, no counterattacks, and 1 wound. And then finally, with Kyra, we're having a pretty big turn here. We're going to use our hand crossbow's free action in order to suffer stun 1 with fatigue 3 to make an attack with +2 dice for each cooldown card on our board. So we'll only have 1 for the stun that we take. So this is going to be an attack for 5. And that is amazing. Another 2, 4, 6, 8. Oh man, if we had another Inspire, we could make that 10, making it 2 wounds. But we're definitely okay with just the 1 wound there. No counterattacks is always great. And now we've run into a potentially very cool situation for us. So now that we know the top of the action deck for Charon is one of those Arcana cards, the thing about them is that they have really strong actions, but you cannot get a counter attack off of them when they're on top. So we can make a really big attack here, and the amount of fumbles isn't going to matter because it won't be able to make a counter attack. And Marie has a huge attack in hand that we can benefit off of from this. So let's go with Marie and start with a War Incense. So we're going to receive Inspire 1 and we'll go ahead and do Empower 2. That gives us our maximum of 4 Inspire and a 2 Empower. We also move 1 up on the Fierceness track, putting us in 2nd position. And then we're going to do our big Fervent attack. So we get to make an attack and we get to discard as many inspiration tokens as we want to grant it an additional +5 for each. So since we have the max of 4, we're going to get +20 to this attack. So 20 from this card, 3 from our weapon, and another 2 from the Empower. That is a 25 die attack. Well, I guess it does say after that that tokens you discard do not count for your signature skill bonus, so that's still okay. I mean, that's still 23 die attack. So we definitely become the most fierce for using that attack. And I'm not going to try to roll 23 all at once. We'll do it in 10 and 13. So first we have 13. And the fumbles don't really matter for us right here because we can't be counterattacked, so we're only going to be counting hits. We have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 right here. Now we need to roll 10 more. All right, continuing from 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 29. And we are actually going to use our Holy Thuribles ability here. So whenever we're attacking, we can pay 2 Vigor points to reroll 1 die after the roll. So we're at 29. We would really like to get that up to 30. Because that's going to be 6 wounds. So we go down to 7 Vigor and let's reroll one of these fumbles. And there we go. That turned into a 1, which makes it 30, which means that is 6 wounds. Doesn't matter for fumbles, no counterattacks since there's an Arcana card on top of the deck. And there were only 4 action cards left in the deck. So with that final attack, we have defeated Charon. And now, I should have done this sooner, but I'm going to go ahead and just say I did it. But we should have drawn 2 Sin cards with Kyra using her ability to restore 1 for Caine. That way, at the end of the round, when everybody else gets a restore as well for defeating Charon, everybody is clear of all of their wounds. So we're going to say that we did that because sins clear off at the end of the round anyways. So we definitely wanted to do that. And then for having defeated Charon, we've gained the Charon's Paddle melee weapon. So this one innately rolls 4 die and has the ability whenever you make an attack that overcomes its target's sturdiness, as a collateral effect, you may pay 2 Vigor points to cause the targeted malefactor to suffer push 1. All right, so definitely a base damage upgrade for our melee wielder Oliver here, and definitely some help with push if, maybe we set up some clever traps and can push the malefactor into those. So cool upgrade there. And so this is going to be the end of our first Dante Inferno video, our first confrontation in Limbo. There are 2 here. Most of them only have 1 Chronicle phase and 1 confrontation, but with some of the expansions, a couple of the different levels are going to have multiple confrontations. So Charon here is from the Triads of the Abyss expansion, and so we got an extra little combat at the start of Limbo. So definitely let me know if you're wanting to see more of this in the comments. I definitely plan on doing at least a couple more, maybe get through level 1 or 2, depending, and then we'll kind of see how y'all are feeling it from there. This has been Solo Party. My name is Caine. Thanks for watching.